Today we're going to look at a new super thin little camera. No, it's a 100 watt cob light. That's right, 100 watts. And look how thin it is. Compare that to the Sony ZV-1. It's super thin. Question is it any good? So we're going to look and see what comes inside the box, and this is in tribute to Bandrew. So you get the cob light itself, the COLBOR W100, 100 watt. You see a little COB light. It's got a nice fan on the back. You've got 1/4-20 here on this side. You've got a 1/4-20 on the bottom for mounting, and super lightweight. What else do you get with it? Well, you get a nice little reflector dish that you can use with it, and now it has a mini Bowens mount to attach to it. Just click it in. There you go. And if you want a little bit of diffusion, it even comes with a little diffusion ring that you can put over it. So once you have the diffusion ring on there, it helps diffuse some of that harsh light that comes off this light. And you also get the power supply with it. It's got a nice little stainless steel cable on it so that you can put it onto your C-stand, and you've got your DC plug to plug into the bottom of it to power it. Now, if you didn't want to use the AC power brick with it, you want to take it out remotely, they do offer an optional battery power grip, and this thing is huge. Comes in at 605 grams, so it's pretty beefy. It is 6,600 milliamp per hour, and it is 99 watt hours, and it comes with a 1/4-20 male up on top, a 1/4-20 to a 3/8 on the bottom so that you can mount it different ways. Comes with a D-tap cable so that you can plug it right into the side of the battery, and it'll give you 50 minutes of runtime, which may not sound like a lot, but when you're considering powering a 100 watt, it's like a spotlight. When you consider that it's going to power this bad boy for 50 minutes at 100% at 100 watts, that's a big deal. You'll get longer runtime with it if you obviously dial it down a little bit, down to 20%, maybe even 2%. Why do I say 2%? Well, I'm going to show you why. All right, I'm going to plug in the DC cable into the bottom, plug in the D-tap cable into the battery, turn this bad boy on. Hopefully it's at a low setting. This is 1%, by the way, okay? That's 1%. That is unreal. The light that I have right now, that is my key light, is actually at 20%. So that just lets you know the difference. 1%, 20%. Big difference. And then when you add the reflector dish, gives you a little bit more brightness. Wow, that is like really bright. Got my camera set on manual right now. That's why it looks so bright. Now, the light itself without the battery thing comes in at 345 grams. And there's a couple of ways that you can adjust the brightness of it. By the way, this is a bicolor light. So when I say bicolor, it goes from 2700 Kelvin all the way up to 6500 Kelvin. So you can adjust the color temperature to fit your needs. But regarding brightness, you can either scroll wheel it with this top scroll right here, and as you push it up, it just gets brighter and brighter. Or you can push the side button here, which will give you 25% increments. So that's 25% brightness right there. I don't even know how this A7 IV is going to handle this. And that's 50% brightness, 75% brightness. That's 100% brightness, and I don't even want to look because right now I'm catching myself a tan. I need some sunscreen. But in a practical situation, how can you use this? So with the light diffuser on, the little dome diffuser, how well does that work? Let's try to kick this down to, that's 1%. So if I have that just off screen here, about the same height as what my key light is, and I take the dome reflector off, you can see it did soften it up somewhat, but there is an optional thing that you can get with this COLBOR kit that will help tremendously, and that is this little mini dome. So it's got the diffusion screen on it. You've also got a grid that comes with it, and it does still have that mini Bowens mount that you can attach to the light. But at this point, let's go ahead and take this whole setup and actually use it in a proper lighted situation in a room to where I'll have like a practical light behind me and then use this as my key light. So this is in a room without any light treatment, just a little practical light behind me here. And you see it's kind of pretty dark because I do have the Sony a7 IV set on manual. But once I turn this COLBOR light on, you can see, and this with the little diffusion and the grid on it, and it's approximately 90 degrees off of me, about 6.5 feet up. You can see it gives a nice, good balance of color. You get a little bit of shade on one side of the face, got the nice practical light in the background, the exposure is nice, and the cool thing is that you can use the phone app to actually adjust all of your parameters on it. So if I wanted to change the color temperature, now let's say I kick it up to 6500 or take it down to 2700, you can see that's a little bit too warm of a color. Let's get this back around 50, what is this, around 5300. So this is 5300 Kelvin. Right now it's at 21% brightness. And let's kick it all the way up to 100% brightness. You can see very overexposed now. I would have to actually adjust the camera settings to be able to compensate for how bright that this light is. But if I kick it back down to 21%, this is just perfect. Now 21% with that battery handle is gonna last a long time. So could you use this with the external battery when you're out and about shooting? Yes, if it's a short scene, because whenever you're shooting scenes on location, and if you don't have AC, you know that it's gonna be, what I mean AC, I mean power outlet. It can take a while before you get all the shots that you need and moving the cameras around. And there is one negative about this light kit, but I'll talk about that a little bit more here in just a little bit. I will say that the app works really, really well with this. Now it's time to talk about some of the pros and cons of this COLBOR W100 100 watt COB light. I will tell you, with the light itself, I have no cons. The brightness is great. The color accuracy seems to be pretty spot on, especially when I compare it to the color settings on my Sony a7 IV regarding color temperature. The fan is super, super quiet. I could not hear it 2 feet away at all. And you have to put your ear up to it to actually listen to it. I like the way that they've done everything on this. I like the app integration because the app actually works super, super well with this light. I like everything that you get with it. I like the little reflector dome, even though, reflector domes, a lot of people, they don't use them in a traditional sense, but they are very effective, especially if you're trying to shoot a bright light through a window to try to light up or simulate what sunlight would be coming in from the outside. A reflector dish really comes in handy because it really does intensify that lightness. The little diffuser dome, it is a nice touch. I think that the grid dome, diffuser dome that you can purchase separately, I think that that's really the way to go. There is one con. When I think of everything that I've worked with this over the last couple of weeks, it's this dude right here. This battery, and although it does work phenomenally and at 100% brightness, 50 minutes as advertised, spot on. I got close to 3 hours at 20%. So that is really a long time considering it's just 6600 milliamp hour battery. But then again, this light is actually so bright, it can last a long time and still give you that all the light that you really need. The con about this battery, well, besides it being like a billy club and you can knock somebody out with it because it is pretty heavy, is the fact that when it's dead and you have to charge it up, it takes 12 to 13 hours to charge this battery. And I've had to charge it 4 times now, and each time it's taken between 12 to 13 hours to charge it. And that's the one thing I think is really kind of a big con, because it just takes so darn long to charge this thing up. But other than that, this works really well once it's charged. So even with that one little negative about the battery, what do I think about this COLBOR? I really like it. 100 watt, very, very small. The fan is very whisper quiet on it. You can control it in different modes on how fast you want it to react to temperature. When you keep the brightness level down at a normal level, 10%, 20%. You're not ever going to hear that fan. You're never going to have to worry about it. And if you look at the scene right now, I mean, it gives a nice little color balance, and it really lights up the scene, and it makes it really, really nice, especially when you throw a little bit of practical lighting into the background. So I think all in all, it's a great light, especially for the money, considering everything that you can get with it. And of course, you can get the optional battery handle, and you can get the optional softbox, which if it were me, and I'm giving advice to you, which I am, I would definitely say spring for the extra money and get the softbox with the grid on it, because it definitely helps out a lot. I mean, in a pinch, could you use a little reflector dish with that soft dome light diffuser on it? Yeah, you could in a pinch, but I would rather use this, the dome diffuser. So that's my 2 cents on this from COLBOR. Product links down in the description below. And as always, I'll catch you in the next review. Bye-bye. Should I pull a Bandrew? I'm going to pull a Bandrew. Oh, no. It's going to be a long video. I can tell that already.